Let the children come to me.
Blessed are they who are pure of heart, for they shall see God. Matt 5:8. Then some children were presented to him so that he would touch them, but as his disciples kept away with scolding words those who were being presented, Jesus was displeased and said to them, Let the children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven is for those who are like them. Verily, I say to you, anyone who does not receive the kingdom of heaven like a child will not enter it. And embracing them, he blessed them, placing his hands upon them. Mark 10 verses 13 to 16.
Purity of heart is inseparable from simplicity and humility, and excludes every thought of selfishness and pride. That is why Jesus uses childhood as a symbol of such purity, just as he uses it as a symbol for humility. This comparison might not seem just, considering the fact that the spirit of a child may be quite old, and that upon being reborn to corporeal life it brings with it the imperfections that it had not gotten rid of in its previous existences. Only a spirit who has reached perfection could give us a model of true purity. However, the comparison is precise from the present life point of view, because, having not yet manifested any perverse inclinations, little children offer us the picture of innocence and candor. Furthermore, Jesus does not say that the kingdom of God is for them literally, but for those who are like them. Since the spirit of a child has already lived before, why does it not show from birth what it really is? Everything is wise in God's works. Children have need of sensitive care, which only a mother's tenderness can give them, and this tenderness increases with their frailty and innocence. For a mother, her child is always an angel, and it has to be that way in order to capture her solicitude. She would not have the same attentiveness toward her child if, instead of innocent charm, she found behind her child's infantile features of virile character and adult thoughts, and she would care even less if she knew about the child's past. Furthermore, the activity of the intelligent principle would have to be in proportion to the weakness of the body, which could not endure a large amount of activity of the spirit, as may be seen among highly precocious individuals. That is why, as incarnation draws near, the spirit enters a state of confusion and gradually loses its self-awareness. For some time it remains in a sort of sleep, during which all its faculties remain latent. This transitory state is necessary to give the spirit a new starting point, and to enable it forget the things that might hinder it in its new earthly existence. Nevertheless, its past acts upon it. It is reborn into a better condition, is stronger, both morally and intellectually, because it is supported and aided by the intuition it has retained of its previously acquired experience. Beginning at birth, its thoughts gradually regain momentum to the degree that its organs develop, so that it may be said that during the first few years, the spirit is truly a child, since the ideas that will form the basis of its character are still dormant. During the time when its instincts are asleep, it is more malleable and therefore more accessible to the impressions that can modify its nature and enable it to progress, which in turn renders the task imposed on the parents easier. Thus, the spirit does wear the tunic of innocence for a while, and Jesus is correct when, notwithstanding the soul's previous lives, he uses the child as the symbol of purity and simplicity.
Sinning through thought, adultery. You have learned that it was said to the ancients, "You shall not commit adultery." But I say to you that he who looks at a woman with a wicked desire for her, has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Matt 5:27-28.
The word adultery must in no way be understood here in the exclusive sense of its normal meaning, but in a more generalized sense. Jesus often employed it by extension to designate evil, sin, and every bad thought, as, for example, in this passage.
For if anyone amongst this adulterous and sinful generation is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him also when he comes accompanied by the holy angels in the glory of his Father. Mark 8 verse 38.
True purity is not only displayed in one's actions, it is also displayed in one's thoughts. For those who have a pure heart do not even think about wrongdoing. This is what Jesus meant. He condemns sin, even in thought, because it is a sign of impurity. This principle naturally leads to the following question. Does one suffer the consequences of a wrongful thought if it is not followed by an effect? Here, there is an important distinction to be made. As the soul caught up on the wrong path advances in its spiritual life, it enlightens itself and rids itself little by little of its imperfections, depending on the greater or lesser goodwill it employs in virtue of its free will. Every bad thought thus results from the soul's imperfection. However, depending on its desire to purify itself, even a bad thought can become an opportunity for advancement if the spirit forcefully rejects it. It indicates an effort to wipe away a stain. Hence, it will not yield if presented with an opportunity to satisfy a wrongful desire, and after having resisted it, it will feel much stronger and happier with its victory. On the other hand, the soul that has not made good resolutions seeks an opportunity for the wrongful act, and if it does not actually commit it, it is not because of its will but because it lacked the opportunity. Consequently, it is as guilty as if it had actually committed it. And some persons who do not even conceive the thought of wrongdoing have already made progress. Those to whom the thought occurs but who reject it are on their way to making progress. Lastly, those who have such a thought and take pleasure in it are still indwelt by evil in all its strength. In one, the work is finished, in the other, it remains yet to be done. God is just and considers all such nuances in people's responsibility for their actions and thoughts.
True purity, unclean hands. Then the scribes and Pharisees who had come to Jerusalem approached Jesus and said to him, "Why do your disciples violate the tradition of the ancients, for they do not wash their hands when they eat their meals?" But Jesus responded to them, "Why do you yourselves violate the commandment of God in order to follow your tradition? Because God gave this commandment, 'Honor your father and mother,' and this one, 'He who speaks outrageous words to his father or mother is to be put to death.' But you have said, 'Anyone who has said to his father or mother, every offering that I make to God is useful to you and fulfills the law, even if afterward he neither honors nor helps his father or mother. Thus, you have made God's commandment useless for the sake of your tradition. Hypocrites! Isaiah rightly prophesied about you when he said, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts remain far from me. And it is in vain that they honor me by teaching maxims and ordinances that come from men.' Then, having called the people, he said to them, 'Hear and understand this well. It is not what enters the mouth that defile the man, but what comes out of the mouth of the man. What comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart and is what makes the man impure. For it is from the heart that evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, robberies, perjuries, blasphemies and slanders proceed. The things that make the man impure are there, but eating without having washed one's hands does not make a man impure.' Then his disciples approached and said to him, 'Did you know that when the Pharisees heard what you just said, they were offended by it?' But he answered them, 'Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be uprooted. Leave them, they are the blind who lead the blind. If one blind man leads another, both fall into the pit.'" Matt 15:1-20. While he was speaking, a Pharisee asked him if he would dine with him in his home. And Jesus went there and took his place at the table. The Pharisee then began to say to himself, "Why did he not wash his hands before dinner?" But the Lord said to him, "You Pharisees take great care in washing the outside of the cup and plate. However, the inside of your hearts is full of greed and iniquity. How foolish you are! Did not he who made the outside also make the inside?" Luke 11 verses 37-40.
The Jews had neglected the true commandments of God in order to hold to the practice of regulations established by humans, and of which strict observers made matters of conscience. The very simple basis had ended up disappearing beneath the complexity of form. Since it was much easier to observe outward acts than to reform oneself morally, by washing their hands instead of cleansing their heart, people deluded themselves and believed that they were square with God because they conformed to such practices. Even though they remained as they were taught that God required nothing more. That is why the prophet said, "In vain these people honor me with their lips, teaching human maxims and ordinances." The same occurred with Christ's moral doctrine, which ended up being placed on a secondary level. Just like the Jews of old, many Christians came to believe that their salvation was better guaranteed by means of outward practices than by morality. It is to such human additions to the law of God that Jesus makes the allusion when he said, "Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted shall be uprooted." The purpose of religion is to lead people to God, but people cannot reach God unless they are perfect. Consequently, any religion that does not make people better does not meet its objective. Any religion on which people believe they can support themselves for doing wrong is either false per se or false in principle. Such is the result of all religions in which form is more important than the foundation. Belief in the efficacy of outward signs is meaningless if it does not keep murder, adultery, robbery, slander, and other wrongs against one's neighbor from being committed. This sort of belief produces superstitious people, hypocrites and fanatics, not moral men and women. It is not enough, therefore, to put on the appearance of purity. Above all, one must be pure of heart.
Scandals. If your hand is a cause for scandal, cut it off. Woe to the world because of scandals, for it is necessary that scandals come, but woe to the person through whom the scandal comes. If anyone scandalizes one of these little ones who believe in me, it would be better for him if one of those millstones were hung around his neck and that he were cast into the depths of the sea. Be very careful not to despise any of these little ones. I declare to you that their angels in heaven incessantly come before my Father who is in heaven, for the Son of Man has come to save who was lost. If your hand or your foot is a cause for scandal, cut it off and throw it away from you. It is much better for you to enter life having only one foot or one hand than to have two and be cast into eternal fire. And if your eye is a cause for scandal, tear it out and throw it away from you. It is better for you to enter life with only one eye than to have two and be thrown into the fire of hell. Matt. 18:6-10.
In its ordinary meaning, scandal means every action that shocks morality or decency in an ostensive way. The scandal does not lie in the action per se, but in the repercussion it might have. The word scandal always implies the idea of a certain outburst. Many persons are content to avoid a scandal because their pride would suffer and their worth would diminish in other people's eyes. As long as their turpitudes are ignored, it is enough for them and their conscience to be at ease. According to Jesus' words, they are whitewashed tombs on the outside, but full of rottenness on the inside, clean vases on the outside but dirty on the inside. In the evangelical sense, the meaning of the frequently used word scandal is much more general, which is why its acceptation is not understood in certain cases. It is not only what offends someone else's conscience, but is everything that results from human vices and imperfections, all the wrongful actions of one individual toward another, with or without repercussion. Scandal, in this sense, is the effective result of bad morals. It is necessary for there to be scandal in the world, said Jesus, because humans on the earth are imperfect and thus inclined to wrongdoing, just as bad trees bear bad fruit. Therefore, one must understand by these words that evil is a consequence of people's imperfections and not that there is an obligation for them to commit it. It is necessary that scandals come because, being in a state of expiation while on the earth, people punish themselves by means of contact with their vices, of which they are the primary victims, and the inappropriateness of which they finally end up understanding. Once they are tired of suffering from evil, they will seek the remedy in the good. The reaction to these vices therefore serves simultaneously as punishment for some and trials for others. This is how God enables the good to emerge from evil, and how people themselves profit from bad and disagreeable things. If such is the case, one might say that evil is necessary and will last forever, because if it were to disappear, God would be deprived of a powerful means of punishing the guilty. Hence, it is useless to try to improve humankind. However, if there were no longer the wrongdoer, there would be no more need for punishment. Let us imagine humankind transformed into moral individuals. No one would try to commit a wrong against his or her neighbor, and everybody would be happy because they would all be good. Such is the state of advanced worlds where evil is excluded. Such will be the state of the earth when it has progressed sufficiently. Nevertheless, while some worlds evolve, others are formed, peopled by primitive spirits. They serve as habitations of exile and places of expiation for imperfect, rebellious, persistently bad spirits who have been barred from worlds that have become blissful. But woe to him through whom scandal comes. This means that since evil is always evil, those who unknowingly have served as instruments for divine justice, those whose bad instincts have been utilized, have committed evil nevertheless and must be punished. Thus it is, for example, that an ungrateful child is a punishment or trial for the parents who bear it because they themselves had been bad children, perhaps, and now must suffer the penalty of tallion. However, the child is blameworthy nonetheless and must be punished in turn in the persons of his or her own children or in some other way. If your hand is a cause for scandal, cut it off. This is a powerful image which would be absurd if taken literally, and which simply means that one must destroy within oneself all cause of scandal, that is, of evil. One must uproot from one's heart all impure sentiments and all immoral tendencies. It also means that it would be more praiseworthy to have one's hand cut off than for that hand to have been an instrument for a wrongful act, to be deprived of one's sight than one's eyes having been an avenue for bad thoughts. Jesus never said anything absurd to those who could understand the allegorical and deeper meaning of his words. However, many things cannot be understood without the key that Spiritism provides. The Spirit's teachings. Let the children come to me.
Christ said, "Let the children come to me." Profound in their simplicity, these words do not imply the mere calling of children, but of the souls that gravitate in the lower regions, where misfortune knows no hope. Jesus called unto him the intellectual infancy of the full-grown person, the weak, the enslaved, and the bad. He could not teach anything to physical infants, subject to matter and the yoke of instinct, and not yet belonging to the higher order of reason and will, which is exercised around them and for their benefit. Jesus wanted people to come to him with the trust of those little beings of wavering steps. His calling to them would win him the hearts of all women who are mothers. Thus, he could submit souls to his tender and mysterious authority. He was the flame that dissipates the darkness, the morning light that awakens the dawn. He was the initiator of Spiritism, which in turn must call to itself not little children but mature individuals of goodwill. A vigorous process has begun. It is no longer a question of believing instinctively and obeying mechanically. It is necessary for people to follow the intelligent law that reveals its universality. Dearly beloved, the time has come in which errors, once explained, will become truths. We will teach you the precise meaning of the parables and will show you the strong correlation linking what was with what is. Truly, I say to you, spirit manifestations are intensifying on the horizon, and Spiritism is the messenger that will shine like the sun on the mountaintops.
John the Evangelist, Paris, 1863.
Let the little children come to me, for I have the milk that strengthens the weak. Let all come to me who are fearful and feeble, and in need of support and consolation. Let the unlearned come to me so that I may enlighten them. Let all those who suffer come to me, the multitudes of the afflicted and unfortunate. I will teach them about the great remedy that softens the ills of life, and I will give them the secret of healing for their wounds. My friends, what is this supreme balm possessing virtue par excellence, this balm that may be applied to all the wounds of the heart to heal them? It is love, it is charity. If you possess this divine fire, what will you fear? Every moment of your life you will say, My Father, may your will be done and not mine. If it pleases you to try me through pain and tribulation, may you be blessed, for it is for my own good, and I know that it is your hand that is weighing on me. O Lord, if it pleases you to have mercy on your weak creature, if you give my heart permissible joys, may you be blessed yet again. But do not allow your divine love to sleep in my soul. May I unceasingly lift up to your feet the voice of my thanksgiving. If you have love, you have everything there is to be desired on the earth. You possess the most excellent pearl that neither circumstances nor the evils of those who hate and persecute you will be able to take away. If you have love, you will have put your treasure where worms and rust cannot reach it, and you will see everything that might stain its purity erased from your soul. You will feel the weight of matter grow lighter day by day, and like a bird soaring in the sky with no memory of earth, you will ascend without ceasing. You will ascend forever until your exhilarated soul satiates itself with life in the bosom of the Lord.
A Protector Spirit, Bordeaux, 1861. Blessed are they whose eyes are shut.
My good friends, why have you called me? Is it so that I might place my hands upon this poor sufferer here and heal her? Ah, such suffering! Good God, she has lost her sight, and darkness has come upon her. Poor child, may she pray and hope. I do not know how to perform miracles apart from the will of the good God. All the healings I was able to receive, and which were pointed out to you, may be attributed only to the one who is the Father of us all. In your afflictions, therefore, always look to heaven and say from the bottom of your heart, My Father, heal me, but may my infirm soul be healed before the infirmities of my body. May my flesh be chastised if need be, so that my soul may ascend to you with the whiteness it had when you created it. After this prayer, my good friends, which the good God will always hear, strength and courage will be given to you, and perhaps also the healing that you have only timidly asked for as recompense for your self-denial. Nevertheless, since I am here in a gathering that deals with study more than anything else, I will tell you that those who have been deprived of their sight should regard themselves as the blessed ones of expiation. Remember that Christ said it is better to pluck out your eye if it is evil, and that it would be better if it were cast into the fire than be the cause of your perdition. Alas, how many there are on your earth, who someday in the darkness will curse having seen the light. Oh, yes, how happy are they who in expiation have been struck in their sight. Their eyes will not be a cause for scandal or downfall. They can live the life of souls completely. They can see more than you, who see clearly. Whenever God allows me to open the eyes of any of these poor sufferers and restore their sight, I say to myself, Dear soul, why do you not know about the delights of the Spirit that lives in contemplation and love? You would not be asking to see images that are less pure and less sweet than those that have been given to you to behold in your blindness. Oh, yes, blessed are the blind who want to live with God. They are happier than you who are here, for they feel happiness. They touch it. They see souls and can soar with them in spirit realms that the predestined of your earth do not see. The open eye is always ready to cause the soul to fail. The shut eye, on the other hand, is always ready to enable it to reach God. Believe me well, my good and dear friends, Blindness of the eyes is often the true light of the heart, while sight is frequently the dark angel that leads to death. And now, a few words for you, my poor suffering woman. Have hope and take courage. If I were to tell you, my daughter, your eyes shall be opened, how joyous you would be. But who knows if such joy would not lead to your loss? Trust in the good God who gives happiness and allows sadness. I shall do for you all that I am allowed. But you in turn must pray, and especially meditate on everything I have just said to you. Before I leave, may all you gathered here receive my blessing.
Vianney, Priest of Ars, Paris, 1863.
Remark: whenever an affliction is not the result of acts committed in the present life, one must search for their cause in a previous one. Whatever is called a whim of chance is no more than the effect of God's justice. God does not inflict arbitrary punishment. God always wills for a correlation to exist between the wrong and the punishment. If in the divine goodness God has cast a veil over our past acts, God nevertheless points the way to us by saying, "Whoever has killed with the sword shall perish by the sword," words that may be translated as, "The punishment is always according to the sin." Therefore, if someone suffers the torment of the loss of sight, it is because sight was for him or her a cause of downfall. Also, it could be that the person was the cause of the loss of someone else's sight. Perhaps someone had become blind as a result of excess work having been imposed or as a result of mistreatment, lack of care, etc., and now the offending person is suffering the penalty of talion. The person him or herself might have chosen such expiation, applying these words of Jesus personally: "If your eye is a cause for scandal, pluck it out."